It's 8:53.
Hopefully the chicken sandwich economy.
Right. Happy birthday. Going out to Glenn Michael Tenatongo Barcinas, 30 years old. That's coming from Antiquina and the Tango Works family and also everyone at DZSP. So happy birthday. It's 8:53, Thursday, September 23rd. Mary Rhodes from the Guam Hotel and Restaurant Association joins us now in the KUAM News Zoom room. Mary, I kind of just want to start with when you guys had come out with the other chambers and basically asked your members to kind of dial back to 50% occupancy. Whatever happened with that? Because we haven't seen any other, and I think at the time, maybe, I don't know, you guys were thinking that we would see some type of restrictions implemented to stem the transmission of the virus, which is, it's crazy spread now, week 8. But whatever became of that, did you guys have members who said, hey, yeah, good call, let's do that?
Well, it's really a two-part thing. GHRA was really asking for a lot of its members, just because of the social distancing mandates were put back into place with 6 feet. That requires a lot of businesses to automatically reduce occupancy to about 25–50% reduction. And so when we came out, we just asked everybody to take extra measures. And so if that's to go reduce your occupancy, whether that's to 75–50%, and we really went out asking the business community to consider those options because, in all of our meetings with the government to date, they still haven't reduced occupancy, but really the restrictions on the measures that have been put in place already reduces it. Yeah. So it's really just a matter of semantics, right? There are a lot more restrictions now with the new mandates, and so businesses have seen a reduction, whether it's direct or indirect consequences of those mandates. There have been reductions in sales, yeah, reductions in occupancy, and reductions in just number of people coming out, and also in employment. Because people are going to have to make adjustments, especially as the new mandate this coming Monday goes into play with the number of people who are unvaccinated but needs to weekly test. Right. And as you can see with inclement weather being as it is today and even yesterday, the testing sites had to adjust their hours or even considered closure because they're unable to test. So GHRA and AMC had their test site, their pilot one, our pilot one at the Hyatt yesterday. And we did see some overflow from the other site only because of the test site being closed. But I just really want to inform the public that the purpose of our testing site is really for the unvaccinated individuals who need to report to work and weekly test. So it's really set up to be a surveillance testing site, and we are not supposed to be receiving people who have come in close contact with individuals or people who are symptomatic. For those reasons, you should really go to a clinic or to public health test sites at the Community Health Center or TZN if you are symptomatic or come into close contact with individuals. Our weekly test site that we've been authorized with Public Health and AMC is really for surveillance testing for unvaccinated individuals who need to weekly test to show proof to their employers.
Mary, we do some shoots with some restaurants and just talking with some of the managers since the implementation of the purging of the unvaccinated mandates. They're saying that they have seen a business fall by as much as 40% in some cases. Well, one restaurant I talked to was 40, another was 30. And it's not necessarily because a large part of their customer base was unvaccinated. They're also seeing just vaccinated people who just don't want to bother, you know what I mean? So yes. What kind of impact are you guys seeing in the restaurants?
Yeah, our numbers from our survey showed, averages of 30–40%, but as high as 85% reduction, which is a huge consequence to the businesses. And a lot of it is due to the mandate, whether or not they're vaccinated or unvaccinated. It just creates such dissension out in the community that people are not wanting to really go out and support businesses. And so we've really tried to encourage everybody to come out and still continue to be safe And the restaurants and the hotels, and you heard the governor and public health really directly say that there have been no transmissions specifically to the restaurants. And so it's really unfortunate that the restaurants have had to really feel this negative impact really in the last couple of weeks due to this. So we're really trying to educate the community, make sure everybody knows that we are practicing health and safety protocols. There have been 0 transmissions. It's really in congregate settings, at gatherings. And so that's really where where it's out in the community, and it really isn't specific to the hospitality sector or to restaurants. And so it's very important that people understand that. And it's really challenging to balance the health and safety, right, with the economy all at the same time, especially when people have their livelihoods, not just as employees, but also as employers. And so we did share with you earlier today, we have some free training available through the National Restaurant Association via ServeSafe. And there are some new free training programs and webinars that they rolled out on how to deal with these mask mandates, but also vaccination mandates, because it does impact your entire environment down to the mental wellness of your employees on how to address these situations. And so those free trainings are available. Jason's going to put it out on your site. Yep. And so we're encouraging all of our businesses to avail of those free training programs through ServeSafe.
Mary, when you talk about the economy, right, it kind of seems like we're in a lose-lose now, because the governor put in place these mandates that target the unvaccinated people, but when you look at the numbers, they're clearly not working. And then it's also given the economy a huge hit. So I don't know what's working here.
Yeah, that's why, initially GHRA really came out strongly saying, if you're going to allow the schools open, you should allow the restaurants and all the other businesses to allow and practice their health and safety protocols, because the Delta variant is really out in the community itself. And it's important that everybody, make their choices, whether if they're going to be vaccinated, if they're not, that they go out and get their exemptions and they weekly test if they have to go to work. But no matter what, you still have to continue to just, wear the mask and socially distance and wash your hands. It's really about the basics, knowing that this is out in our community, but the businesses should be allowed to operate and continue to maintain their operations with health and safety protocols in place, since it is a community spread. And so as much as we're seeing the schools open, all the businesses should be allowed to operate as well, as long as they're maintaining those protocols, especially now that numbers are as high as over 85% for vaccinations. And we're continuing to have vaccine clinics. AMC is having a vaccine clinic at 2 hotels next week, Monday and Friday. We will have another weekly testing for employees who have to test before they go to work. And so I think that's going to be extremely important as we continue to see the mandate take effect this Friday for the government, and next week, Monday, for private sector. We even had not just public health, but also another agency, an autonomous agency, come down and look at our protocols with AMC and GHRA, because they want to emulate that. And so they need to be able to put all those systems in place if they're going to prepare for the mandate that's going into effect. Not just for local government, but think about what President Biden put out, in the next couple of weeks. Their protocols will go in place with regards to all companies 100 plus over, as well as anyone with a federal contract will have to be fully vaccinated, right. And testing won't be allowed.
Mary, let me just get in real quick. Guys, it's 9 o'clock, and I just want to make this announcement on behalf of the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center. For immediate release, above step recruitment for Psychiatric Social Service Administrator for the Children Adolescent Services Division. GBHWC is requesting for the recruitment of Psychiatric Social Service Administrator position for the Children Adolescent Services Division at pay grade R, step 08, in the amount of $84,632 due to recruitment difficulty and exceptional qualifications. GBWC is pursuing the processing of this GG1 to recruit Mr. James P. Cooper, nurse, in accordance with the hiring of a Psychiatric Social Service Administrator provided in 4 Guam Code annotated public officers and employees, Chapter 6, compensation of public employees, subsection 6205, recruitment above step. The above step request is based on his education, professional experience, and qualifications. Jibwick has had a difficult time filling the psychiatric social service administrator position due to the lack of qualified applicants. Signed, Director Therese Areola. And thank you for that. Mary, this training you're talking about, is this basically
What?
like...
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, oh, go ahead.
No. I'm just wondering what that was, but go ahead.
Yeah, it's an ad.
Oh.
Mary, is this like a Karen training you're doing, basically?
You know, not just for customers who are complaining about it, right? It's also really for employees. So if employees are actually, there are quite a number of employees. From our survey, we saw, you know, even sometimes upwards of 60% of the employees remain unvaccinated. And the fact that they're not able to work except for weekly testing, there are a lot of concerns that people have with regards to being mandated. And remember, GHRA was not for mandating any of this across the board. So the fact that it is taking place, GHRA's role in the community is to provide information, resources, tools for the employers, as well as the employees. And so as much as we're not for the mandates, we still have to provide a service to our members and the community. And so that's why we're providing these free training sessions that's available through ServeSafe. And these are national programs, and they are free. So, and it's not just for, you know, although it's designed for restaurants in handling complaints by customers, but also for employees and how to prepare them to deal with mask mandates and vaccinated versus unvaccinated individuals. So it's really across the board. And so there are a number of courses that are available out there.
Have you been able to get your eyes on the training?
Yeah, I
curriculum?
looked at a few of them. I registered for 2 already. And so because, you know, I want to learn from it as well. Another training that we are signed up for, both Danielle and I at GHRA, is we're also participating in public health program that we're going to get certified in the ID Now machine, since we have the ID Now machines at our site. Even though AMC has the CLIA waiver, since GHRA received the public health CLIA waiver as well, we want to make sure that we're fully trained in it. So it's really about just making sure we're accountable and responsible throughout this entire time and period. And, you know, this isn't necessarily what GHRA does, but we've had to adjust this last 18 months, almost 2 years. And as we continue to deal with more issues and more restrictions, I think it's going to bring up a much larger issue is, you know, how long will people continue to deal with this? And I know it's bringing up the emotional, mental health issues, but think about the businesses themselves who continue to be shuttered. And so GHRA is working with some stakeholders on that with GDB and the Chamber of Commerce and JGTA and KGTA, because we have to really look at when the federal dollars really end, it's not just PUA ending, right? It's the extension of PPP and EIDL, but also where's the rest of the funding for the restaurant revitalization fund, and how much more can we ask of the CARES Act and the rescue plan dollars that hasn't been spent? Because right now the plan with the government is to spend a lot of it within the government. So although GHRA just launched that $27 million grant, can we do more? Because as we continue to see restrictions and businesses limited in their operations, then we need to be able to provide them, you know, more funding and more support, because they are in their hands are tied. And so they are essentially being closed down for reasons that are beyond their control. And so the government needs to answer for that and then also provide the support. Just like the test mandates, you know, GHRA and AMC, although we are helping to augment and complement their testing sites, we need to look at more testing sites open in areas where we're not dealing with inclement weather. How can we safely do this where we're not adding more pressures to the clinics, the tier 2 clinics, as well as the hospital, right? So it takes partnerships and community outreach. And really that's GHRA's role here, in ensuring that we are working with public health and our partner is AMC, but how can we continue to provide more services to our businesses, employees, and community as a whole?
Well, what did you hear, Mary, about the restaurant revitalization fund or any
TARP. What about the
the
TARP,
TARP, yeah.
resolution?
Yeah, the TARP, we have a meeting today at 11 as well as tomorrow. We are identifying certain funds that maybe we can hopefully redirect. And we hope that we can get, audience with the governor, but as well as, not just the executive branch, but as well as the legislative branch. I know that Congressman Nicholas has also given support and has reached out with regarding both the RRF and the shuttered venue operations grant that was recently awarded with SBA. But we really have to collectively put our heads together because Guam has not been able to get a larger percentage of those funds, right? They were given a certain percentage. And so since the federal dollars are already here and they haven't all been spent, maybe we can get some of those redirected to the businesses that pay GRT, or maybe we can consider reducing GRT again, the BPT, or give them some kind of an extension like what we did last year, where 90 days, although it was only 90 days deferred, we would like to see a longer deferment or even a waiver of fees. One of the things we've talked about is what about all those employees who haven't worked and need to get back into work? Can they get a 1-year extension on all their health certificates, their ABC licenses, things they didn't use but they fully paid for a year? So we need to start having those conversations with the government because there are a lot of things that are still being held on the shelf and not really activated. And with the number of people who are currently unemployed and the number of businesses who can't operate fully, there are a lot of costs associated with employment and costs associated with operating on Guam. And if those government agencies aren't open or allowing them to operate or to be employable, then we need to have those conversations. Is it right to continue charging them those fees for the next year? Can we waive those fees knowing that, the government is whole because they've received the federal funding? What about the businesses and the employees who have to continue to pay the same rate for less productivity, right? So we have to right size it, I think. And so we haven't had those conversations, and I'm really looking forward to working with our industry stakeholders with regards to TARP and other things that other people might have. But we really are looking at a comprehensive set of, strategy and solutions with the executive branch, legislative branch, congressmen, as well as any other federal funding we can look after.
Right.
And that's something that really GDB and GHRA should collectively go after for the tourism industry. But I know that the Guam Chamber of Commerce has wanted to initiate or has already engaged with the group, with the stakeholders, and there are a lot of agents that have really been shuttered throughout this last year and a half, right? Mm-hmm. And so although we have military spending going on, and that is really the only mainstay this last year and a half, it's been good to help maintain operations, but really tourism is a two-year timeline in how we can approach that. And it's going to be very challenging for a lot of people, if not already.
Mm-hmm. Mary, have you participated in any sort of conversations about what are we going to do about Airbnb now that the White House, the president just announced this week about this new policy that he plans on implementing in November, requiring that foreign travelers, in order to come to the United States, you have to be vaccinated?
Well, I think it's a good plan, actually, because the whole point of Airbnb was introducing a program that could slowly reintroduce tourism back to Guam. It wasn't supposed to be the silver bullet for tourism at all. It was to only allow ourselves some time for re-entry into Guam. And so and that was also to allow the countries where they couldn't get vaccinated fast enough. But with Japan and Korea really moving quickly with their vaccines, and Taipei, Taiwan has really been cooperating with Guam on this. We had our first Jeju flight from Korea It really was only a re-entry into Guam and giving people options, especially the expats, U.S. citizens, and then some of the tourists that have been able to get their vaccines. But once those countries start hitting their goals for vaccinations, then it is only right that we move towards receiving tourists who are fully vaccinated, because it only helps everybody around the world, right? From a global strategy with tourism. That's the only way that we're going to be sustainable. And so it's a good strategy going forward, but we still need to have a plan in place like Airbnb for those who still cannot get vaccinated or prefer to come to a destination that is safe and secure and still has all the protocols in place to ensure that they're not integrating with the rest of the community until they're fully inoculated.
Okay. All right, Mary. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. And again, I'll share the link to our vaccine clinics as well as our test site again next week. It's really important everybody reach out. If you are interested in attending the public health to become an employer-sponsored site, that training is Tuesday with public health from 3 to 5, but you have to submit all your paperwork in order to become an employer sponsor with public health. And so I'll provide all that information to Jason so he can upload it.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mary.
Okay,
Stay
thanks,
safe.
everybody.
Thanks, Mary.
Stay safe.
Thank you, Mary.
Bye.
Bye.
Tomorrow, right? 9/24. That's the day that
Yep.
the governor's executive order goes into full effect.
And then what happens?
What did she say? Disciplinary action or
Yeah, so government employees, if, the option is,
for GovCon employees?
so for government employees, you have to either be fully vaccinated or submit to the weekly test, right? Or have an exemption. But have we been able to nail down the thing with the exemptions?
No, we've been trying to get
Yeah.
Chima.
That's the other thing, guys. I've reached out to the director every day this week, Director Arts and Augustine Public Health, and they're usually really good about getting the public health people on because we are in a public health emergency. So I've been asking for Chima all week, but Chima has been working on the Department of Education testing plan, and so he had messaged me the other day that they're really trying to get this obviously out before the start of school on Monday. But we've been trying to get answers to a lot of different questions, and one of them is the exemption, because we've just been hearing so many different things about, first of all, are any exemptions even being granted? Last we heard it was at the Attorney General's office for review. You're supposed to be able to get either a religious or a medical exemption. We're also hearing that some people, and we haven't been able to confirm this, that some people may have been getting exemptions if they've already had the coronavirus. So we don't know, and we're trying to get the answers because that's going to be a big part of this whole thing come Monday, right? Is you should have the right, if you're a government employee or even a private sector employee, you should have the right to say, hey, it's against my religion, or you have some kind of medical condition. So yeah, that's that. It's 9:16. We're gonna, Jay, yeah, we're gonna come back with a Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center and Jason Solis. It's Thursday, September 23rd. We're gonna take a quick break though, and we'll be back with more of the link next. Good morning.
We know you're tired of hearing about COVID-19. Some of you are probably wondering whether this is ever going to end.